Alright guys, today's question comes from two of my students, D'Angelo and Dan, who are currently getting prepped up for their Algebra 1 Regents. This is always a question on the Regents in some form or another, and that's what we call projectile motion. It's actually a physics problem. You see these a lot in like elementary, kind of basic high school level physics. And essentially it says that a projectile is launched straight up into the air, and its height as a function of time is represented by, and then they will give you an equation, or a function rather. And this is our function right here, okay? Not that it's really of any concern to us, we just need to know how to solve it, I believe. But this is height as a function of time. I believe this is acceleration due to gravity. This is my initial velocity. And I know for a fact this is my starting value, okay? So I believe this is acceleration due to gravity, so you always see the problem start out with negative 16, or depending on where you are, negative 9.8, because that's in the metric system. We're dealing with feet here because this is America, and that's how we roll. A couple things, you'll see I draw my T's a little bit weird. I don't normally draw my T's like that. I draw my T's like this. But whenever you have plus signs and T's, it's always good practice to keep them looking just a little bit different. This way you don't get them mixed up. I also tend to space out my equations a little bit more, or my functions. And that's why I wrote them extra far away from each other, because T's and plus signs look an awful lot alike, especially when your handwriting is as ugly as mine. So pretty much what they want to know is, when will this reach 560 feet? And here's the kind of tricky part, is that it's actually going to reach 560 feet twice. So if we think about what this graph would look like, again, we're starting at 320 feet, somewhere up here. And our graph will look something like this, where it's going to go up and it's going to come down. So I've done this problem already. I know that 560 feet is not its maximum height. That's another question that they often ask you. So I know that once on the way up, it's going to pass 560 feet, and then once on the way down, it's going to reach 560 feet. So it's maximum height, so it's going to go up in the air, and it's going to come back down. It's going to actually pass 560 feet twice. The big thing that people often mistake is that this is time, right? Because that's x value is time. Time is a great independent variable, and then this is height. So a lot of people think that it's kind of like the projectile, like a ball, kind of being thrown up in the air and it traveling a path and going out. This is not what this means. This is a ball being thrown straight up in the air, or an object being thrown straight up the air and then coming straight back down. So a lot of people think that it's height and distance. It's not. It's height as a function of time. So this object is being launched straight up. Because people think that when an object is launched, it goes up and it goes down. And it seems like it's moving kind of as a parabola, but that's not what this is measuring. This is measuring height as a function of time. Good? All right, so let's get on with it, okay? So the easiest way to do this for most of you guys is going to be to graph it. Because we're doing this at kind of like the Algebra 1 level, you're going to see that this is going to have a nice normal answer. If you were doing one of these that's a little more complicated, it might not have a nice integer answer. So essentially what we want to do is we want to know, when does it reach 560 feet. So pretty much we're going to take our function here and we're going to set it equal to, well, 560, right? That's the height we want, okay? So I'm going to kind of erase this, get this stuff out of the way, okay? All right. So let's take this and we're going to take our function, negative 16 t squared plus 128t plus 320, and we're going to set it equal to 560. Done? All right. Okay, so you got a couple approaches. I'd say for a lot of you guys, the easiest thing you're going to do is you're going to break out your graphing calculator. You're going to plug this function in, and you're going to see, where does my function equal 560? So most of you guys should be familiar with this. You turn it on, you replace your batteries when needed. You plug in your function. X is t. It's just something you got to remember. Here's your variable button. It's x, t, theta, n. And then you're going to go to your graph. And the graph, kind of messes with people, because this graph is going up at a really, really, really steep clip here, okay? But so it's going way up there and disappearing and then coming way back down here. But we can go to the table, and we pretty much want to know where does y equal 560. So we just kind of scroll down, and if we're lucky, it's an integer answer, so it's at 3 and at 5, okay? So when t equals 3 and t equals 5, those are our answers, okay? So if you want the short way, you can just turn off the video right now, that's it. The drawback is that if it was, I don't know, 3.125 seconds, your table's not going to show it unless you set it up, and you kind of have to know that. So this is a good way to check always first, and these will be our answers. The ball is going to pass 500, or the projectile is going to pass 560 feet at 3 seconds and 5 seconds. But there's got to be a couple other ways to do this, okay? So I'm going to show you a couple different ways. Again, you could complete the square, you could do all those other things. The first thing you always want to do, especially if you guys are taking Algebra 1, see if negative 16 goes into all of these. Because if we can make these numbers a little bit easier to work with, then that will make our life just a little bit easier. And usually in Algebra 1, everything will be divisible by whatever your A term is, this lead coefficient here. So let's go ahead and see that. Let's go, is 128 divisible by negative 16? Sure it is. Is 320 divisible by negative 16? Sure it is. And is 560 divisible by negative 16? Oh, you guessed it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. So what we can do is we can actually simplify this, and it's still going to give us our same answer. That's fine. Okay. And we're going to divide everything by negative 16. We're going to get t squared plus, it's negative, minus 8t minus 20t, minus 20 is equal to negative 35, okay? And now typically the best way to solve these is we're going to set them equal to 0. You could complete the square here. I'll make a video on that. You can complete the square. You can use the quadratic. I did another video where I used a quadratic. So this one I'm going to show you guys how to factor. But again, if you wanted to, you could just make sure before, if you're going to use the quadratic, you set it equal to 0. Or again, like I said, you could complete the square. It actually wouldn't be that bad. So again, we're going to add 35. So I'm going to get t squared minus 8t plus 15 is equal to 0. Okay, and we're going to use the multiplication property of 0 to our advantage. Okay, so we're going to factor this. A is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 8, and c is equal to 15. So again, we're looking for the factors of 15 that add up to negative 8. So we're going to say 1 and 15, no. Negative 1, negative 15, no. 3 and 5, no, but that's 8, so we're on the right track, and we can stop right there, okay? So these are my factors of 15 that add up to negative 8. So I'm going to rewrite this in factored form. T minus 3, T minus 5, sounds like Apollo 15, okay? And then we're just pretty much going to solve, okay? So T minus 3 equals 0, and T minus 5 equals 0. Okay, if you guys forgot why that worked, it's really important that you guys understand why that worked. Is that if this one's equal to 0, then it doesn't matter what this is, because anything times 0 is 0. And this times 0, it doesn't matter, because this will be anything, and anything times 0 will be 0. Okay, so we get two things. Solve our two equations. T is going to be equal to 3, and T is going to be equal to 5. Okay, so those are my two answers. This is the one on the way up. This is the one on the way down. Okay, so I hope that helped anybody out. I guess if you guys got any more questions, you guys can send them in. If you guys have questions, you can send them to downstairsmath@gmail.com. Okay, so I hope that helped you guys out. Professor Gaines sent you here. Tell him I said hello, and I will talk to you guys soon. Okay, thank you. Bye.